Jeralyn Glass is an internationally acclaimed singer, musician, and leader in the field of sound healing. She began her career on Broadway and has sung on opera and concert stages around the globe. Merging quantum science, bioenergetics, and crystalline singing bowls, Jeralyn helps people facilitate healing and transformation with the power of music and sacred frequencies that nourish our bodies, connect us with our hearts, and awaken our consciousness.
Hello, I'm Professor Jeralyn Glass. I'm a Hay House author. I'm a musician and singer. I work directly with crystal singing bowls, and I'm pioneering in the field of sound and music as a healing modality.
And you are not kidding. We are so graced to have you here today, Geraldine. And I called you earlier in the week because I was being interviewed, and I discovered at the end of the interview the woman didn't understand vibration and frequency had an impact on her being at all. And it surprised me. I just thought this was like a natural understanding. And I thought, who can I talk about this with? And of course, your name came up immediately. So, can you just please share a bit about what vibration and frequency means to you and the impact on your being?
Yeah, I'm going to include music in that because I am a musician, and I feel like music has the ability to, as the uh, poem quote goes, to soothe the savage breast or to soothe the savage beast. Like music has the ability and sound and frequency to really calm our nerves. Or think about ultrasound has the ability to perhaps relax muscles. Sound has so much potential to help us ground and center, focus our thoughts. And music has the ability to help us feel emotions, perhaps emotions that are um, associated with long ago memories, or so much. For me, sound and music are really an incredibly integral part of life. And I think not just being a musician, but if you think about in every culture since the beginning of time, they cultures used music to bring people together, to unify, to sing to the baby, to dance together, to use the drums together, to sing mantra. Music and sound have just been an important part of humanity since truly the beginning of time.
So, let me go to the next question because when I was young, you were told to sit in your seat when you went to a concert, not move, don't make any noise, don't make any else, like basically don't feel, don't talk, don't let this in your heart. And I know, I mean, you've had amazing experiences singing on Broadway and singing all over Europe. Did you experience this at all with, any of the conductors or the directors that you sang with? And did that move you at all into what you're doing today with the bowls?
Okay, let me ask you a question, since this is important.
Yeah.
If you're a child or a young person and you're told we're going to a concert and, just be quiet, what kind of concert were they taking you to?
Oh, a classical concert,
Okay.
a big symphony orchestra, and it was a big deal. We had to travel 2 hours because I lived in a tiny podunk town. They didn't have this in our town, so it was a big deal. We had to wear dresses and everything.
Right. And there's something exciting about doing that. But did your parents communicate to you? Because that concerns me. Don't feel. Because it's one thing to be present and still and respectful and quiet and wow, what's coming? And then the conductor comes and the downbeat happens, etc. And it's another thing to just go, okay, I'm going to be in this box and I just have to behave myself because this is a classical concert and I better not, budge. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah,
And
I was in the box. I was in the box, and I'm wondering if you got put in that box at all in your professional career.
no, I feel like there's certain etiquette, So, for example, of course, you go to a live show and you have to be quiet because if you're making noise, you're going to distract the rest of the audience from the performance. So, there is that. But I think it's very important to be nurtured in young people. And as you're having a career, it's very important to nurture the sense that we receive sound and we receive music, and that touches us. But if you're just told, like as you were describing, to just be in a box and just be there, then you're in fight or flight, Susan. You're in a fear pattern, and you're afraid that you might do something wrong. Now, I think we talked a little bit. I have had conductors and been in very serious situations where conductors are very strict, and I'd say they might have erred towards the side of being a bully, being like it has to go my way. And, you as the singer are like, okay, but I also need to express my heart and make my music along with the tempi that the conductor chooses, along, of course, being together with the orchestra and everything. But I think there's a way in music, no matter what style of music it is, to allow this flow to happen. And if there's this kind of commanding sort of presence that doesn't leave room for orchestra members, soloists, singers to participate with their own unique personal alchemy, then we're talking about something else. Then there is definitely fear in the space, and there's definitely this kind of, okay, I got to do it right. As a young singer, there were certainly moments where somebody was very intimidating, a famous conductor, and it was like, okay, I want to get this right. But in the end, Susan, we have to bring our unique alchemy to express ourselves. And if someone's doing this, it's hard to do that. Your system is somehow in a state of fight or flight. I don't know if that answers the question.
I very much so. I'm very glad you're touching upon that because I do see that as part of our society and culture. There is a piece of that. And I've always, whenever I've heard you play live, which is such a privilege to do, you feel the emanation of joy that comes like deep in your heart. And it's not faux. Like you can go to a show, you can go to a concert, and that smile is like plastered on, but there's no connection. And you just pour it out. The connection is there. And it was so lovely when you were describing the concert that you gave for the survivors of the fires in LA and how much the connection was so deep. And that's not always what it is, that kind of deep, like true, pure giving from the heart. And that's where I'm wondering, where has that gone in our humanity? And I think it's through your work that you're bringing us back in touch with our truth, our value, our purpose, and our love.
An orchestra is only great as all its members. So if we're talking about a classical concert, for me, there has to be some kind of permission that's given by the conductor. Of course, he's holding the whole unit together. But if each individual instrument and singer and participant in whatever the music is, doesn't feel free to bring their own gift, then we have something that feels more like that. But I think there's a fine line between respect, presence, what you were describing as a child. There's a fine line to create that, like, wow, this is going to be amazing. You're going to hear 100-piece orchestra, and we get to dress up in our, finest clothes and your little shoes or whatever, and then you're going to be really quiet, and then you're going to feel magic. Like, I think that's the element that we've maybe come out of touch with. And I think for me, music has always been about love. And it's always been about joy. And I had this quote when I did my first classical recital. I was touring with My Fair Lady at the time, and we were playing out in Los Angeles. And I gave a classical concert, kind of mixed it with classical music and some popular music. And on the invitation, we used a quote that says, "Music is love in search of a word." And that's what I put it in the foreword of my book, also Sacred Vibrations. Because if you're just doing technique, if you're just controlling, if you're just, how do I say it to you? How to find the right words? If you just have that element and you don't have the element of the heart, it doesn't come alive. It's not electric. It's not magic. And I think the greatest conductors and the greatest performers that I've seen, they have a technique that's impeccable, a technique that they've studied and they know their music well, and then they play. And I think there's two techniques of how do we stay in a really structure that respects the music that we're playing, whether it's pop music or classical music, it doesn't really matter. But how do we stay to that structure? And then how do we stay so present in the moment of the performance that we're loving? We're just, it's all about loving the sound and loving with the audience. I mean, I always tease and say, when I'm really into playing the bowls, it's like it's an act of making love. There's such a pure beauty and pristine quality to sound and music, and I'm going to guess that that's might have been what your parents would have liked to have shared with you, but parents don't, they don't necessarily. It's like, I don't want my kid to be too loud in such a situation where everyone's quiet. So I think that aspect of love needs to be brought in, and we're talking a lot about leadership and what are good ways to be a leader. And, it certainly is one style to be dominating and to be dictator like and to, control, and conductors can be known to be like that. But I think more in the modern world, like if I think about Gustavo Dudamel, who's an incredible conductor, world renowned, like that man is so full of love and joy and laughter and fun and passion. And yes, he's an incredibly brilliant musician, but you don't feel like he's controlling everyone, that nobody has room to express themselves. It's like the question is, how do we collaborate with one another? Someone's guiding it, there's the conductor driving the train, or also, so someone's guiding, but how do we all come on board so that we're all a part of it?
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head. And I think that crosses over into all fields, not just music, but in all systems. So I really appreciate what you're bringing to us. Thank you, Jeralyn.
Yeah, I think, this whole idea of being intimidated, of somebody being such a strong leader that you are afraid, like what you described as a child, and that you're in fight or flight and you want to please them and you want to be a good girl or boy and do the things right. I feel like, Susan, in a certain way, that kind of, um, it's kind of outmoded now. And yet you're right, it does exist. And in many situations it does exist, but I think it's all of us finding our voice. So if we have a leader or a conductor that has that kind of energy, we still have to find the strength to have our own voice and know that it matters, right? And the return to love.
Beautifully stated, Jeralyn. So just let people know where they can find you. I'll obviously have it in the links too. And if there's anything you want to share with us about what may be upcoming or what you have to look forward to that you're excited about.
Oh, thanks. We have this app called Source that I'm very excited about. It's a platform where science, spirituality, and the healing power of music all intersect. And the book, Sacred Vibrations, would love if people read that or listen to it. The audio version I got to read, so it's very fun. And then I'm passionate about teaching. So I've been a professor since 2006 and passionate about teaching people how to use the crystal singing bowls. And then we'll be offering in August of this year, we'll be offering the first time a healing retreat. So for people to just come and relax and receive and learn exactly this, like, how do I express myself? How do I use my human instrument? How can Jeralyn help me to free my voice? And then just to receive and be nurtured with creative things that we'll offer in the healing retreat. So I'm excited about that.
You have a lot going on. Thank you again. Thanks for being here and thanks for your contribution again.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you.